The morning sky was a pristine blue, an illusion of peace shattered by the ominous silhouette that blotted out the sun. Captain Alex Reed stood at the observation deck of Earth's Central Command, his gaze fixed on the colossal alien craft hovering silently above the planet. The immense vessel, with its jagged edges and pulsating energy core, seemed to mock the fragile defenses of humanity. "Captain Reed, we have a situation." General Hughes's voice crackled over the intercom, sharp and urgent. Reed turned to face the hollow screen, where Hughes's grim face appeared. "The alien ship has begun deploying drones. Their scans suggest an imminent ground assault." Reed's eyes narrowed as he absorbed the information. The commander was a seasoned veteran, known for his calm under pressure and strategic brilliance. Despite the gravity of the situation, he maintained a composed demeanor. "Prepare the defense teams. We need to understand their technology and devise a counter-strategy. Immediately." He turned on his heel and strode down the corridor, the clatter of his boots echoing against the metallic walls. The command center was a hive of activity, filled with officers and technicians working feverishly. Reed's second-in-command, Lieutenant Maya Alvarez, approached him with a stack of data pads. "Captain, the initial scans are in. These drones are more advanced than anything we've encountered. Their energy shields are nearly impenetrable with our current technology." Maya's voice was steady, though a trace of concern lingered in her eyes. Reed scanned the data, his brow furrowing. The aliens' technology was a formidable enigma, with sleek, metallic drones capable of both reconnaissance and offensive maneuvers. "We need to find a way to exploit their weaknesses. I want every available scientist and engineer working on this." As Reed spoke, the room erupted into controlled chaos. Scientists hurried to analyze the alien technology, while military personnel prepared for potential ground engagements. The tension was palpable, a mix of determination and apprehension. In a corner of the room, Dr. Emily Carter, a leading Xenotech specialist, was engaged in a heated discussion with a team of engineers. Reed approached them, his presence commanding attention. "Dr. Carter, what do we know about their power sources?" Reed asked, his tone brisk but respectful. Carter looked up, her face illuminated by the soft glow of her console. "We've identified a potential vulnerability in their energy distribution network. If we can target these nodes, we might be able to disrupt their systems temporarily." Reed nodded, his strategic mind already at work. "Excellent. Let's prioritize this. Maya, coordinate with the field commanders to prepare for a defensive operation. We need to be ready for anything." As Reed took his leave, he glanced back at the alien craft through the observation deck. The once serene morning now felt like a distant memory. The weight of responsibility bore down on him, the burden of defending humanity from an existential threat. He knew the coming hours would be critical, and every decision he made could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. The alien drones continued their relentless approach, their metallic forms casting ominous shadows on the earth below. Reed's mind raced with strategies and contingencies, aware that each moment brought them closer to a confrontation that could either seal humanity's fate or herald a new chapter in its history. The countdown to the battle had begun, and the future of Earth hung precariously in the balance. The initial shock had passed, replaced by a steely resolve. Captain Reed and his team were ready to face the challenge, their determination as formidable as the alien threat looming above. The atmosphere in the command center crackled with urgency as Captain Alex Reed surveyed the room. Outside, the alien drones buzzed like an ominous swarm, their sleek forms darting across the sky. Reed's team had only hours before the expected ground assault began, and the tension was palpable. Lieutenant Maya Alvarez was already coordinating with field commanders, her voice steady as she relayed instructions over the comms. "Deploy defensive units to the high-risk zones. We're expecting the drones to breach our perimeter soon. Set up anti-aircraft emplacements and prepare for a potential ground invasion." Reed nodded in approval, then turned his attention to Dr. Emily Carter, who was deep in concentration at her workstation. The Xenotech specialist's fingers danced over her console, her brow furrowed in concentration. The holographic display before her flickered with schematics of the alien ship's energy network. Dr. Carter, any breakthroughs? Reed asked, his voice edged with both hope and impatience. Carter looked up, her face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the screen. We've identified a critical junction in their energy distribution. It's heavily shielded, but if we can disrupt it, we might cause a significant systems failure. Reed's eyes narrowed with determination. How long until you can get a working prototype of the disruptor ready? Carter hesitated, her gaze shifting to the pile of components scattered across her workbench. A few hours, if everything goes smoothly. But we need to be cautious. A misstep could trigger a countermeasure from the aliens. The room fell into a tense silence as Reed absorbed this information. He glanced at the clock ticking down on the wall, each second a reminder of the encroaching threat. Do whatever it takes. We're on a tight schedule. As Carter and her team scrambled to assemble the disruptor, Reed strode across the command center to where Lieutenant Alvarez was briefing a group of officers. Their faces, illuminated by the dim emergency lights, reflected a mix of resolve and anxiety. Status report, Lieutenant, Reed demanded, his voice cutting through the murmur of nervous chatter. Sir, our ground units are in position and ready to engage if the drones breach the perimeter. However, we're facing a shortage of tactical drones for surveillance. The aliens have jammed our sensors, making it difficult to track their movements. Reed's jaw tightened. The situation was growing increasingly dire. Have we established any alternative means of recon? Alvarez nodded. We've deployed stealth probes, but they're limited in range and durability. They should give us some visibility, but not enough to ensure full coverage. Reed's mind raced through possible solutions. We need eyes on the ground. Deploy the probe teams to the most vulnerable sectors and monitor them closely. Just then, the room's lights dimmed further as a low-frequency alarm began to blare. The holographic displays flickered with red alerts, signaling that the first wave of drones had breached the outer defenses. The command center erupted into a frenzy of activity. Reed's team moved with practiced efficiency, each member executing their roles with precision. The tension was almost tangible as Reed issued final orders for the impending engagement. The deafening roar of anti-aircraft fire punctuated the air as Earth's defenses engaged the alien drones. Outside, the sky was a tumult of flashing lights and explosions. Reed watched through the observation deck, his heart pounding with a mix of dread and determination. Hold steady! Reed shouted into his comms, rallying his team. We need to hold the line until Carter's disruptor is ready. This is our chance to turn the tide. The command center's walls reverberated with the sound of battle as Reed and his team braced themselves for the onslaught. The initial skirmish was just a prelude to the larger conflict ahead. Reed knew that their ability to withstand this assault would determine humanity's fate in the coming hours. In the midst of the chaos, Reed's thoughts were clear. The stakes were monumental, and every decision, every action, could make the difference between victory and defeat. The battle for Earth had begun in earnest, and the resolve of its defenders would be tested to the limit. As the drones continued their relentless advance, Reed stood firm, his gaze fixed on the horizon. The future of humanity hinged on their ability to adapt and overcome. And as the sky filled with the echoes of conflict, Reed knew that the true test of courage was only beginning. The clash of metal and fire illuminated the night sky as Captain Alex Reed watched the battlefield from the command center. The first wave of alien drones had breached Earth's outer defenses, and the intensity of the skirmish was mounting. The air was thick with the acrid smell of burning fuel and the distant roar of explosions. Reed's eyes darted between the tactical screens, each one flashing with critical updates. Captain, we're receiving reports from the field. The drones are breaking through our defensive lines in Sector 4. Lieutenant Maya Alvarez's voice cut through the chaos, strained but resolute. Reed's mind raced as he absorbed the information. Sector 4 was a critical zone, and its fall could compromise the entire defensive strategy. Redirect all available reserves to Sector 4. We need to contain the breach and prevent further incursions. And get me an update on Dr. Carter's progress. Alvarez tapped her console, her face reflecting the urgency of the situation. Dr. Carter's team is almost finished with the disruptor, but they're facing complications with the final calibration. They need more time. Reed's jaw tightened. Time was a luxury they no longer had. Tell her to expedite the process. We're counting on that disruptor to turn the tide. As Reed turned to survey the battlefield through the observation deck, he caught sight of a new threat emerging from the alien craft, a series of larger, heavily armed drones descending toward the city. The sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. In the heart of the command center, Dr. Emily Carter's team worked feverishly. The disruptor, a complex array of alien technology and human ingenuity, was taking shape. Sparks flew as engineers welded components together, and Carter's brow glistened with sweat. She was focused, her hands deftly adjusting the final calibrations. "Emily, how long until we have a working disruptor?" Reed's voice was steady, though he could not mask the underlying tension. Carter glanced up, her face determined despite the pressure. "We're almost there. Just a few more adjustments. The disruptor should be operational within the next 30 minutes. Reed nodded, though the urgency of the situation made him anxious. "Good. Make sure it's ready to deploy as soon as possible." The command center's walls vibrated with the sounds of battle, each explosion a reminder of the high stakes. Reed's gaze flicked to the live feed of Sector 4, where defenders were engaged in a desperate struggle against the encroaching drones. The scene was chaotic, with ground troops maneuvering through debris and laser fire. "Deploy additional drone support to Sector 4 and reinforce the perimeter," Reed ordered, his voice commanding. "We need to hold them off until Carter's disruptor can make a difference." Maya's fingers flew across her console as she relayed the orders. "Reinforcements are en route. We're also receiving updates from the stealth probes. They've identified a weak point in the alien forces, a central node where their coordination is weakest." Reed's eyes lit up with a spark of hope. "If we can exploit that weak point, it might give us the upper hand. Coordinate with the probe teams and prepare a targeted strike." Just then, the lights in the command center flickered ominously. The alien craft above was adjusting its energy levels, likely preparing for a more aggressive offensive. The sense of urgency escalated as the first of the large drones breached the city's outer defenses, unleashing a wave of destruction. "Deploy the disruptor as soon as it's ready," Reed commanded, his voice resolute. "We're running out of time." The seconds dragged on, each one feeling like an eternity. The disruptor team worked with frenetic energy, their determination palpable. As the countdown clock neared the critical mark, the disruptor was finally ready. Dr. Carter, her face a mask of exhaustion and triumph, handed the device to Reed. "It's operational. We've calibrated it to target the central node. Deploy it immediately." Reed took the disruptor and handed it to a team of field operatives. "Get this to the designated strike point. We need to act now." As the disruptor was loaded onto a transport drone and sent toward the battlefield, Reed watched with bated breath. The operation was a gamble, but it was their best chance to regain control. The city's defenders fought valiantly, their resolve unshaken even as the battle raged around them. With the disruptor in play, the tension in the command center was almost unbearable. Reed's mind was focused, every instinct attuned to the outcome of their desperate measure. The fate of Earth now hinged on the success of their gamble, and the resilience of those fighting to protect it. The disruptor's activation signal lit up on the tactical screens, and a collective breath was held as the device began its work. The alien drones faltered, their movements erratic as the disruptor's effect took hold. It was a fleeting moment of hope amidst the chaos. The battle was far from over, but as Reed observed the shifting tides of combat, he knew that this was a pivotal moment. The tide of battle had begun to turn, but the final outcome remained uncertain. As the clash of forces continued, Reed's resolve only strengthened. The struggle for Earth's survival was far from over, but humanity's spirit was proving to be a formidable force. The city lay in ruins beneath the ominous glow of alien craft that continued to hover like dark, predatory vultures. Captain Alex Reed stood at the command center's central viewport, his face illuminated by the shifting lights of the tactical screens. The air was charged with a mixture of adrenaline and desperation, a palpable tension that gripped everyone present. The disruptor had temporarily disrupted the alien forces, but the battle was far from over. Reed's eyes were fixed on the battlefield below, where the defenders were pushing back against the alien drones with renewed vigor. The disruptor's effect had created a critical window of opportunity, but the alien command structures were regrouping quickly. The enemy's resilience was proving to be as formidable as their initial assault. "Captain, we're receiving new data from the probe teams," Maya Alvarez said, her voice breaking through the din of the command center. "The alien forces are consolidating around a secondary command node. If we can target that node, we might be able to cripple their remaining coordination." Reed's jaw tightened. "Prepare an assault team. We need to strike that command node before they can fully regroup." Dr. Emily Carter approached, her expression a mix of exhaustion and determination. "The disruptor worked, but we need a follow-up strategy. If they manage to fortify their command node, it will become nearly impossible to breach." Reed nodded, recognizing the urgency. "Agreed. We need to deploy specialized units to infiltrate and disable the node. Alvarez, coordinate with the field teams. Carter, are we ready with the secondary offensive tech?" Carter's eyes met Reed's with steely resolve. "Yes, we have a new prototype that should enhance our ground forces' capabilities. It's ready for deployment." The command center buzzed with activity as Reed's orders were relayed and the secondary offensive tech was prepared. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the defenders were engaged in a fierce battle against the re-energized alien drones. The city's skyline was streaked with laser fire and explosions, a chaotic ballet of destruction and defiance. In a darkened corner of the command center, a small team of elite operatives prepared for the assault on the alien command node. Their gear was sleek and formidable, an amalgamation of advanced human and alien technology designed for precision and impact. The team leader, Sergeant Tom Richards, reviewed the mission briefing with focused intensity. "Remember, our objective is to infiltrate, disable the command node, and extract. We're facing a heavily fortified position, so expect strong resistance. Stay sharp and follow the plan," Richards instructed, his voice steady despite the high stakes. The team members nodded in agreement, their faces reflecting a mix of determination and resolve. As they prepared to move out, Reed watched from the command center, his mind racing through possible scenarios. The stakes had never been higher, and the success of this operation could turn the tide of the entire battle. The assault team deployed under the cover of darkness, navigating through the wreckage-strewn streets toward the alien command node. Their movements were precise and deliberate, every step calculated to minimize exposure and maximize their chances of success. The city's devastation provided both cover and challenge, with wrecked vehicles and shattered buildings forming a hazardous landscape. As they neared the command node's perimeter, the team encountered fierce resistance. Alien drones and ground forces defended the node with relentless efficiency. Laser fire cut through the night, and the operatives engaged in a brutal exchange of fire. The clash of human and alien technology filled the air with a cacophony of sounds, explosions, blaster fire, and the occasional metallic screech of damaged equipment. Sergeant Richards led his team with unwavering focus, directing their efforts to breach the command node's defenses. They used a combination of explosive charges and precision fire to create an entry point, their coordinated actions a testament to their training and determination. Inside the command node, alien control systems blinked and hummed with an unsettling rhythm. The team moved swiftly, setting charges to disable the node's central processors. The alien technology was both intricate and alien, a stark reminder of the formidable adversaries they faced. As the charges were set, Richards gave the signal to withdraw. The team made their way back through the chaos, their exit covered by a final surge of resistance that kept the enemy distracted. The charges detonated with a resonating boom, sending shockwaves through the command node and causing the alien forces to falter. The command center erupted in cheers as the tactical screens displayed the impact of the operation. The alien forces began to disintegrate into disarray, their coordination shattered. Reed's face reflected a mix of relief and grim determination. The battle was still ongoing, but the disabling of the command node had delivered a decisive blow. "Outstanding work, team!" Reed commended as Richards and his team returned. "You've given us the upper hand. Let's capitalize on this momentum and push for a final push." The defenders rallied, their spirits buoyed by the success of the assault. As they pressed forward, the alien forces began to retreat, their once formidable assault now faltering under the weight of humanity's resolve. Reed's gaze remained fixed on the battlefield, a silent testament to the hard-fought victory. The tide had indeed turned, but the cost had been high. As the city began to emerge from the shadows of devastation, Reed knew that the fight was far from over. The final stand had been won, but the echoes of the conflict would resonate long after the last shots were fired.